What's going on, Slot Car fam? It's Mr. Ian Douglas coming to you live from the workshop. I am doing another race winner teardown video, this time of my 2025 Slot.it Nationals winning car. And I thought I would take a couple minutes to also compare it to previous year's cars here. So bear with me. I'll give you a quick rundown of the race. The race was held again at Electric Dreams. Big shout out to Marco and the whole crew there. They are the ones who put on this event. And if it were not for them, if it were not for Marco, the Slot.it Nationals in the USA would not exist. So I've been privileged enough to go there for all 4 years, and I've saved all of the cars. This one, I have, the chassis is somewhere in the house, but this is my first Slot.it Nationals car from 2022. And back then, we were running the XJR10. It had just come out. And so what we did was, with the rules that were available, or within the rules, we were able to run super wide tires. And so we ran NSR F1 super grips. And all of the cars were super close. And that race was, I think, still by far, to me, the best of the Slot.it Nationals. The novelty was super high. And we didn't really know what we were doing, but we're just enjoying it. So you can see, you know, I've got the super detailed driver. It's a little messy in there. And then this was actually a year that I used water-based paints on all my cars. I hadn't gotten into the lacquer paints yet. So you can see the orange peel is like pretty bad. And you can see the paint chipped off here. And I had Maurizio sign it 8/2022. So this is this is actually my first West livery ever. So I have fond memories of this car. It does not get run anymore. But, you know, if we fast forward to 2023, we had switched over to the Nissans. And the Nissan is super cool. It's super lightweight body. The car has similar dynamics to the Jaguar in that the body does float on the chassis. And the body, when painted really light, is like just under 15 grams. So if you don't have to add any ballast to these bodies, it's just kind of a weapon and an unfair advantage. And if you actually look, I don't know if you can kind of tell, but if you hold it up to the light, the body is not entirely opaque. So it's just, I painted it with just enough paint to actually cover the body. And you can see here, this is one of the first years that I went over to lacquer-based paint, and you can see that the clear coat is better, but still not great. And then it's signed by Herman, by, I think that's Maurizio again, and there's a couple people here. I don't quite recall. I think Rick may have signed this, Rick Jockum. So this is exactly how it was. So, you know, Slot.it zero grips, NSR front screws. We used foam inserts. So we had really good traction. And this was the first year we did inters. It's kind of the development of inters. So really proud of this car. This was just on rails that entire race. So now if we go to 2024, was another Nissan year. We did have to put some more weight on this car. So rather than the last year, the body being open in terms of like the minimum weight, this year the body had to be 18 grams. So we put, you know, 2.5 grams, 3 grams underneath the driver. And you can see here, clear coat getting better. It's all lacquer-based paints. And this is actually Solar Flare Red from Tropical Glitz, with some West Effect Black, and then some West Silver Effect from Gravity Paints. And it's all paint. You can see there's no decals. It's 100% paint. Well, other than that, that is a decal. But really enjoyed this one. I kind of particularly love the little nostrils here, this red accent. I love that. I need to redo that on some other cars. And I do kind of love the asymmetrical the asymmetrical sort of paint scheme. So really happy with this car. I didn't think that it was the best car. As you can see, we could not run foam inserts, and Marco did this during his teardown. And so this car was not as good as the other cars. It was a bit of a handful, to say the least. But, you know, obviously it was good enough to win, which is kind of what matters. And then this year, we had some additional rules. The Nissan had to run even more ballast. And so, you know, last year I thought that the Nissan was probably not going to be the car this year. And it ended up, you know, being the case that everyone basically felt like the XJR10 and the 9 or 12, whatever, were basically the cars. And the idea there was that the 10 was already good from years past, and so we just kind of ran the playbook back. And you can see this is kind of, I'm getting a bit better with the clear coat. This one is a little rushed. I haven't been doing like the super concourse level paint jobs because, you know, I'm just feeling a little rushed with the turnaround on the races. So you can see here there's some solvent pop here, and you know, it's not perfect, but you know, it is a race body. One of my favorite features of this body was actually this kind of ghosted checkered flag, which I really like, and I think I might use more of that in upcoming liveries. But let me walk you through the car. So it is a Slot.it Jaguar XJR10. We had to run the spats. So as you can see, there's some solvent pop there too. I don't really know why, but you know, sometimes it happens. But we had to run the spats, and so we were width limited. But my thought on this, you know, I was thinking these XJR10s seem to be a bit slow, a bit doggy, and they sometimes have trouble rotating in corners. And so I kind of thought, you know, maybe the narrow track width is actually going to help these cars this year. And so this was the one that I put all my energy into. I really wanted to run it. I had an XJR9 as well, which was very good, and it was actually a little bit faster the day before the race, but I felt like Todd was doing the 10. I thought Braden was doing the 10. So I knew a lot of the fast guys were going to do the 10, and I kind of hedged my bets there. So I'll start out with the body float. So we did run a lot of body float on these as usual. I ran even front to back. I'd say it's about 2.5 to 3 millimeters front to back. And I made sure that there's nothing hanging up, so it has like very smooth body float. Sometimes what can happen in these in the back is that the little spoiler can hang up in here, and so you got to just make sure that it doesn't interfere. And I didn't do anything crazy to the spats. They are original. They're not, you know, they're not replicas or anything. But yeah, let me take the body off and I'll show you what's going on. So the body was held on with, I believe this is an NSR. Sorry, this is a little difficult to do behind the camera here. Come on. Yep, so it is an NSR big shoulder 2.2 screw. And I believe in the back, I actually ran a smaller screw because this is a little bit of like a limited area. There's not very much space back here. Let's see. Yeah, so this is just a standard Slot.it screw. Just a standard, there you go. Standard Slot.it long screw. Okay, and so we will show you the body here. So the body was 19 grams on the dot. It's got all the parts in it. I always make sure that I have all the pieces. And I try to make sure that I don't get overspray on the underside of the body to make sure that I'm getting it be as light as possible. And I did run the tear-proof rear spoiler, and it is B7000 on. And again, no decals here. This is 100% paint. You can see it kind of in the texture. You know, again, it's a race body, so I know Michael likes to really double, triple clear coat his bodies and wet sand them. You know, these are race bodies, and so I don't worry so much about that for these big races because I want to make sure that the car isn't super heavy. So here you can see the car. I've color matched the chassis to the body so that it is seamless there, which is a little detail I like doing. We were allowed to put a piece of tape holding the wire down, and I'm pretty sure that because the tape was purple, that's pretty much what made the car so fast. The rules didn't change super substantially, but they changed enough to warrant some new parts. So this year we were required to run the stock screw. So there's a stock Slot.it screw there. We were allowed to run spacers underneath, let's see here, spacers underneath the guide. So you can see that I used a slotting plus, I'm trying to get the reflection there. There you go. Slotting plus big spacer there to get that nice platform. We were required to run Slot.it front tires. So these are Slot.it zero grip front tires. Get some more light on here. Trued to, I'm not even sure, I think like 16.9 or 17.5 or something around there. Since the first race going to Electric Dreams, Rick Jocham had his wires in, facing inwards here, sort of towards the middle of the car. And we've pretty much been doing that since then. And it really is the best way that I've found to wire the cars so that they center. Ran both the tungsten weights there, and this is the third motor that I had. I broke in all the motors, and I didn't feel like there was a substantial difference between them. They definitely weren't as good as they were in years prior, but you know, they were all decently quick. I ended up going, it was a supplied 10-tooth pinion, and I ended up going with the 24. The whole weekend I ran a 25 on my other car, and it felt great on the XJR9, but the 10 just needed a little bit more shoot speed, a little bit more top speed, and so I geared with, I went down to a 24 to get a little bit more top speed. Let's see what else is here. I did run the titanium nitride coated steel hollow axle in back, just because, again, I think it's beautiful. And I have noticed that these bushings kind of wear out, get a little slop, and so these axles tend to be a little bigger, but I would not be surprised if next year they get banned for whatever reason. But I like them. They're good. What else? We're running the modular gear here. I don't remember how many spacers are on which side, but I would imagine that there are 3 on this side and 1 on this side. Oops, I'm sorry. 3 on this side and 1 on this side. And then in between days, basically, I would rebuild that and just apply some new lubricant, just to make sure that those are all, sort of floating independently. We ran the spec Slot.it wheels, air wheels, and I trued these to 18.7. So this was kind of a thing this year, is that typically we run the cars very low, but because there was no more magnetic downforce, there was really no real advantage to running the cars as low. And in fact, it actually would hurt the performance of the cars. So what would happen is you'd true these tires too low, and the carcass of the tire was like really, really thin, and it would cause the car to just act super erratically. And so what we ended up doing was truing them down to 18.7, which is like substantially higher than we were before. Before we were doing 17.9 in the era of the foam inserts and magnetism. But now there's not really an advantage. And what truing them larger gets you, and I'll show you, there's no foam in there. I'm not going to tear them apart because they're good tires, and I don't know if I'm going to have to use them again. But you can see there's no foam insert in there. And just to prove that point, I will take this guy and show you what these look like. As you can see, they don't really depress. But basically what we did was we realized that truing the tire taller preserved more of the structural integrity of the rubber, and therefore the tire was more consistent. It's not, it's not as prone to like just getting super, like, I don't know what the term is, but like wadded up in the middle. Like you can feel them when they're really, really thin and they just kind of, there's like nothing there. And so we just drew them larger. The glue that I used is Lord of Base 4100, I think, or 44,000, EC 4000 or EC 4100. I don't really remember, but it's Lord of Base thick rubberized CA. That stuff has been a game changer. I hit that with a little bit of accelerator in a box, and this stuff is just, as you can see, no delaminations. It's just super clean. It is really aggressive though, so you got to be, it sets up really, really quick. In terms of other stuff, it does have the bushings in the front end, and the front end is set up just about the same in some ways as the rear. It's a little lower, and I can show you here. Side to side is really, really uniform. And per usual, I try to set the car on the wheels and not on the front guide. Let's see here. But you can see there is tweak in this chassis now. So what ended up happening on Saturday was that I was running a spacer under this side of the pod, and the race director decided that that wasn't really within the rules. It was a gray area, and so I had to end up removing it. And so what is left is that this side of the car is a little tweaked. And I'm just lucky that once you have the car like in the track, it sits on both. But in years past, with the braid being flush, that would have been a big issue because the front end of the car would have been tweaked. But let's see what else. We weren't allowed to glue the motors this year, but we were allowed to use 2 locking screws. So I think I have some slotting plus locking screws in there. And then in terms of the bottom of the car, I did run the pod tight. So these front screws are pretty much locked down and the rear screws are not. And you can see it has very little side-to-side play. But I did run the washers underneath the head of the screws to just make sure that it had smooth movement. And the reason I did that is because as grip comes up over the weekend, the car can handle more traction. And so I'm getting the ability to use more of that grip there. It depends on how you want to set the car up. We had some of the guys, I think Herman, I don't know if he was running, if Herman was running the pod super tight, but, some people opted to leave a little tighter. Some people opted to leave it a little looser. Basically, the looser the pod in this sort of plane here, the more forgiving the car would be, but the less forward bite you would have. And the tighter you run the pod, the more forward bite you're going to have and the less forgiving you are. But because of the length of this car, the car was super forgiving. And so that was our main philosophy there, is that because the car is so long, so wide, so low, that it was super stable and we could actually utilize all of that grip. And so that's why actually you see I'm running close to as close as I get to slicks. They were attempting to be slicks, but they didn't do a great job. But yeah, that's basically the car. I had a good time this year. I thought, maybe it's time for me to take a little bit of a step back from the Slot.it Nationals. So next year, I'm not going to be racing. I'll be watching from the comfort of my couch and rooting the guys on. But yeah, I have mixed feelings about that, but I think it's the right thing to do. And I think it's time for other people to be able to shine, you know, and for me just to sort of see how things go when I'm not there. One other thing I did want to give a shout out to the guys at Magnetic Racing. They did give me this for winning the race. I thought this was super, super cool. I really, really love this. You know, if you guys haven't had a chance to check out their stuff, please do. It's a really thoughtful gift. Thank you, Ian and Doug and Tim. Really love this. It's definitely going in my display case with the rest of the cars. Yeah, and that's the Slot.it 2025 National Championship winning car. The rest of my collection there. And then I have some other videos for you guys coming up. I'm going to do a breakdown of my NSR winning Modular from 2024. And then I have the 2025 Scaleauto Viper, which won this year. So I got some more videos to do, but I appreciate you guys watching the video. And if you have any questions on the setup, leave them below. Please hit that like button right there. And then don't forget to subscribe, which should be over here for more of these types of videos. Thanks, guys. Yeah.